The first ever Grand Slam track kicked off this past weekend in Jamaica, and here to break it all down with me, the founder of Citius Mag, Chris Chavez. Chris, undoubtedly, this was some of the fastest racing we've seen in April. You were there. I just want your overall, the reaction in general.
Yeah, the vibes in Jamaica were amazing all throughout the weekend. The athletes have really bought into the new league format where they are racing for the biggest prize purse that has ever been offered. And it is a little bit different and rare to see the matchups that we saw in Jamaica. The performances as quick as they were this past April, but overall a good start to Grand Slam track.
Yeah, and what I found interesting is I'm not like casual fan just trying to get more into the sport. I think that event category format makes things really exciting. You have some athletes adding events to their program that we don't typically get to watch them compete in. I love the racing when you see like Emmanuel Wanyoni knock off an entire Olympic podium in the 1500. Were you expecting that?
I was a little bit high on Emmanuel Agnoni like coming into this weekend where I was like he's got tons of potential in the 1500 that I don't think people have seen as much of. He ran something really strong. I think it was like 338 at altitude on like a dirt track in Kenya, and I think I saw enough that to believe that he was fully capable of potentially winning this race. I knew that the format of this league was well suited for someone like him and his strengths, and what he did to the Paris Olympic podium was stunning. And the way he executed that race, I think a little bit of showmanship in the last 50 meters where he's like kind of pumping up the crowd and waving to Yared Nuguse to kind of, in a sense, say keep up, was really fun. And he entered this whole thing as a challenger. And I think that that's kind of the cool part to the league format is that the racers are people who had, all this tremendous success in 2024. And the challengers who are part of it are based off of, their recent performances and the matchups that the fans want to see. And so when Yoni essentially stole the $100,000 from the racers like Cole Hawker, Yared Nuguse, Josh Kerr, and Marco Rope.
Yeah, and you speak about the fans. I think one of the common themes of this weekend in chatting about the wins and the losses, one of the losses did look like there were some gaps in the stands. And so I just wanted to ask you about the attendance. Did it feel that way, or was that just like on the air? Was that one of the things you're thinking might need to improve a bit?
Yeah, certainly. And I think like it's, the elephant in the room, I guess, when, Michael Johnson and his team have kind of, sat down to unpack, the biggest, wins and losses of the weekend. And for sure, getting more fans in the stands would be amazing. And in Jamaica in particular, like it was, an hour before the Friday session, I was like, where is everybody? And, some local people were telling me like, no, it's all right. Like people are always running a little bit late out here. I will say that, the people that were there, they definitely got loud. They had the horns. There was something about just sort of like the acoustics of the stadium that also made it a little bit more amplified. Lots of lessons to be learned, but for sure, this is their first go at it. And I think that they're maybe a bit more optimistic now that, things are a little bit more in control as the series moves on to the States, with Miami being the next stop.
Yeah, I think there's always a starting point, right? So that's really encouraging to hear that already within the weekend they were able to pivot and make some adjustments there, which is great. We saw Josh Kerr stir up a little bit of controversy and maybe a little bit of kind of poking fun at Marco Arope. And I think one of the things when we talk about Canadians, we're a bit protective over our people, but Josh finished in seventh, Marco in second. Is that going to make him a little bit more quiet after the race?
You got to give credit to Josh Kerr for being as vocal as he is because, it's sometimes track needs that hero and villain narrative, and you can love him, you can hate him, you're still going to end up watching, when Josh Kerr lines up to race. And so I loved all of the banter, in the months leading into this thing. And it was fun because, that was, I think, a New Year's Day podcast that I did with Josh Kerr, where he talks about Jakob Ingebrigtsen being, this deer on ice if he were to run the 800. And then, this weekend, frankly, Josh looked like a deer on ice in that event, and, laughing laughing at the fact that Marco believes that he could run under 3:30, and then Marco has the last laugh with walking away with $50,000 this weekend. And so I hope it doesn't stop. Maybe Josh will be a little bit more careful with his words, but even in my conversation with Marco after the race, he didn't really give too much weight to seeing Josh's struggles in that 800 because he believes that as they race, these events more often. I think the cool part is that because of the league format, come Miami, you're going to have to see the 1500-meter specialists try and tweak with the format of how they're going to approach these races because Marco proved that he can run and well enough to come away as a potential slam champion in the next couple stops.
And Miami, as you said, is next, May 2nd to 4th. Can you tee up for the fans what they should be looking forward to at that event?
Yes, so this weekend there were some tactical races in the distance categories because of the heat and humidity that was in Jamaica, but they made for thrilling finishes. And so I would expect some of that for sure in the distance events. And then the sprinters, I mean, this is the weather that they thrive in. The only thing was that Kingston was crazy windy, and so like you had these wind readings that were just through the roof, in all of them, and a headwind coming into the home stretch. And so if that dies down, then I think you will see some faster times and performances. But again, like when you throw time out the window and it's just about who gets to the finish line first, like these athletes are in it for the money, like, and you can see that expression when they cross the finish line. You had Sasha Zoya doing splits and dances after winning the short hurdles group, and you have Gabby Thomas saying that coming down the final 50 meters, she was thinking this is 100K on the line. And so I think that it's incentivized the athletes, and the performances are only going to get better.
Yeah, maybe some digging a little deeper in training the next few weeks. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. This insight is amazing. Every fan can tune in. All the streaming of Grand Slam Track will be on cbcsports.ca. And Chris, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.